Welcome to Frost Astrophotography. In this video, I'm going to revisit an old object, and that is the Heart Nebula. It's getting ridiculous here in Sweden, at least up here at 63 degrees north. The last 2.5 months I've had one single clear night, at least when it has been cleared the entire night, and then I've had 2 or 3 nights where I could shoot, but there's been clouds mixed with clear skies and other things that might interrupt with your photo session. That means that I have selected objects that has been photographed before, but I felt like I wanted to do them more justice, or there has been developments in processing, for example, or that I just wanted to add data to see if I could get some more out of the image. The time has come to the Heart Nebula. I recently did the Soul Nebula, and the Heart and Soul, as you might know it, are right next to each other on the night sky. The first time I did an image of the Heart Nebula, I did not use the advances in PixInsight that we see today, and that is no BlurXterminator, Noise Exterminator, or Star Exterminator. I also did not reduce the stars as much. I used HA stars as well. And I've added data so that I'm closing to 18 hours worth of data now on the Heart Nebula. So let's dive into PixInsight to see what we could come up with this version of the Heart Nebula in 2024. Before we are going into PixInsight, I just wanted to show you my logbook in Excel. This is where I keep all of my sessions and the date, the object, type, name, constellation, and the equipment and setting I used, as well as coordinates and some information about whether or not the frames have been processed or an image has been made. So I can select all here, and then you can see that I have everything I've imaged since I started in this hobby. We are going to select the Heart Nebula here. You can see that I have data spanning from 2021, 10, 16. This was actually one of the first photo sessions that I have in this hobby. You can see that I used my Canon camera here. So I'm not going to use those light frames, but I'm going to use light frames from 2022, 0303, March 3rd. So that is almost 2 years ago. And if I add up all of the frames here, you can see that I have in total captured 268 light frames of 5 minutes. And that is a total of 22.3 hours. I ended up using almost 18 hours because there were a lot of frames not matching up with the specifications that I wanted for this image. I usually look at the number of stars and the eccentricity of the stars. That means if they are round or not. And I also look at other parameters that can tell you whether there were good conditions or not, if the light frame was out of focus, or if it had some clouds in it and stuff like that. And then I normally take them out so that I will not ruin the image. You can also see the filter here. So I have in total 11.3 hours worth of HA data on this target. The hardest thing to capture is 03 in my opinion, because that will require that there's no moon up. It's much more sensitive than HA, I would say. The first thing I do when joining light frames from different photo sessions or even years is that I gather up all of my calibrated light frames, and that means that you have to calibrate the light frames with flat frames and dark flat frames from all of the different photo sessions, as well as with master darks for your camera and the temperatures used in that photo session. I always keep my light frames calibrated for every photo session, but I keep the originals and my master flats as well if I want to go back and redo the post-processing for some reason. There could be some changes in the application or in the procedure for doing so. I don't think that this step is critical, but you can do it if you want to, and if you have space. Next thing is in the subframe selector, you run through all of the light frames for each filter separately, looking for those parameters of light frames that you want to exclude for some reason. When that's finished, put them in an approved folder, and even better, use the subframe selector to output these, including the weighting of these light frames. And you can use weighting later on when integrating the light frames so that they are weighted according to quality. There are separate videos on this post-processing procedure that you can look at if you are interested in that more in depth, so to speak. When you have selected everything that you want to have approved, also make a note of the reference light frame for each filter. I normally go for the one with the most stars in it that is visible. And you can use that later on when integrating every filter separately. Select the reference frame that you want to use. Since I have integrated light frames now from 3 different years, I have an issue of rotation. You can't see it in these images because these are a bit processed already. But each year the night sky will be rotated a little bit because the Earth rotates around its own axis, so to speak. And even though you have the exact same position for the center target of your image, it will be rotated. So you could notice things like black or discolored pieces of your final integration here because the rotation has been different for each photo session. You will get that if you keep your camera static, like I do. I do have a possibility of manually rotating my camera. I have a camera rotator on my telescope, but it's the Skywatcher manual one, and I don't feel like running out to my observatory and manually rotating. That will also affect the balance of my gear because I have equipment sticking out pretty much far out on one side. So I've learned to live with some rotational losses. But if you want to correct that, make sure that you also track rotation in Nina, for example, and rotate to match up with the data that you already have. If you don't do that, you might have to crop out some of your image to avoid some stacking artifacts. The final data here from the 3 different years. You have the HA data looking fairly good. We have the S2 data here looking good as well. And we have some O3 data here. Also very nice O3 data visible in this image. So I've rotated this and I have run through dynamic crop. That is basically everything that I did to these images here. We're going to do like we normally do. We're going to compare one frame for each processing step, not to overwhelm you with all of the different filters, but what I'm going through here will have to be applied to all 3 filter master files. Just a reminder here, we are in the linear phase now, and we have not stretched this image yet. So on the left here we have the original with the dynamic crop applied. On the right here we have the same image but with the dynamic background extraction process run on it. You can see that we have successfully removed some of the background here, but be very careful with this here so you don't remove any nebulosity whatsoever. Please make sure that you are just working in the outer edges of the image here to remove that is background and to keep everything that is HA data here. It is good to use the same parameters for each filter, but make sure that you select the master filter with the most data and probably also the most stars visible, so you don't actually remove any data that is a star by mistake. So next thing is that we run a linear fit. You can't see any difference here because we used HA as the reference frame, but the linear fit actually matches all of the 3 filters in terms of brightness. Then we go through the fun part by running a BlurXterminator. So you can see here that there is a very big difference here between the image to the left and the image to the right in terms of star size and actual sharpness, I would say, in the nebulosity here that is not stars. And the last step here in the linear phase is to run noise exterminator. And you can see that we have an improvement here as well. We're going to close these to compare the first and last. So you can see that there is a major difference here between the first original HA light frame with just dynamic crop on the left and the linear processed with all of the processes that I just mentioned to the right here. And this will be very good for the end result here on this image. Moving on later to the nonlinear phase, we are using the histogram transformation or any other tool of your choice to manually stretch this image to move it into the nonlinear phase. The first thing that I do in the nonlinear phase is to separate the stars from the other content of the frame, and I normally use Star Exterminator for this process. So here you can see that we have the starless version of the HA. This is fairly good data, I would say. And you have the stars here ready to be integrated back later on after maybe some manipulation. Please consider this is only the HA. I'm going to use SHO stars in this image, so these stars will have to be joined together with the other frames as well later on. I normally don't do much. For an image like this, I can adjust the background just a little bit here. You can see that there are some things that I would like to remove here still that I consider to be maybe background and not actual nebulosity. For that you can make a range mask like this, for example, that you can apply here to this image. And you can see that you can protect either the background or the foreground. You can invert this mask here. And then you see that you are protecting everything that is considered to be nebulosity here. And then you can manipulate the background behind it. So I've actually used this to do some adjustments. We can compare these two images. I have removed some of the background here, maybe too much, but I don't think so. You can see that it is just a little bit darker here in comparison to this image. And that is it. I'm not doing anything more in this stage. Moving on to integrating the SH and O master light frames. I normally use pixel math to do this and just simply add them together. So the starless versions of the SH and O is joined together, creating an SHO starless image like the one you see here to the left. And I do the same with the stars. So I join SH and O star images that comes out from the Star Exterminator. So I get some SHO stars on the right here. I'm going to close the stars for now. And we're going to look at the processing steps here in the nonlinear phase for the starless image before we are joining the stars back. Now the first step here is a bit controversial or open for debate. How much of the green are you going to keep in the image? So when you join SHO with Pixel Math, you will get an image looking like this. There is a lot of green in this image. Some people think it should be kept like it is. And some people think that green is going to be removed for the original or classic SHO palette, or the Hubble palette that it is called sometimes. I think it is up to personal taste. I normally remove 70 to 80% of the green with the image in normal mode, and then I invert the image, and inverted I remove 100% of the green. That will take care of the greenish color that you can see here. It will also take care of the magenta that you can see in this portion of the image. And you end up with something that you can see on the right here. After that step, I usually manipulate the colors. Before running SCNR, I normally make 2 color filters, one magenta and one cyan. That will enable me to manipulate the yellow-orange colors and the blue colors. And it's important that you make these filters before running SCNR or any other process on your integrated SHO image. When that is done, you can apply these filters one at a time, and then you can adjust the blue and red color of the image. That will affect these areas. I've also made some curve adjustments to enhance the saturation altogether in this image, and I've also increased the contrast a little bit here, as well as increasing the brightness of certain areas in the image. I then run a couple of processes that I always do for sharpening, that is multiscale linear transformation and unsharp mask. And those can be found as well in separate videos if you want to look at my processing steps in detail. I then remove some noise with the TGV denoise process, and that is also good. It does not look like much here, but if you zoom in on high nebulosity areas, you will see that it has removed some of the noise inside the nebulosity. BlurXterminator does a very good job, but that focuses mainly on other things rather than the high intensity areas with nebulosity. Sometimes I use the dark structure enhance script, and I've done that on this object, enhancing areas like up here. You can see where there are some darkness, also here in the middle, and there are a lot of places in this nebulosity that benefit from this script, so I run that. And then after all of these processes, I revisit one more time with some color adjustments. Could be adding or removing some of the blue, orange, yellow. Also, again, adjusting some of the contrast or maybe saturation. Increasing even more, because when you add stars back, it will remove some of this. The image will look a little bit more flat, and if you don't want to manipulate the stars, please make sure that you do this manipulation before adding the stars back. So that was the last one. Let's close every one but the first to compare that this is the original integrated SHO And on the right you have the fully processed starless version of the Heart Nebula. So for joining the starless and the stars back, I also use pixel math. And before I integrate them back, I normally reduce the stars just a little bit. You can do that by using histogram transformation, or you can use curves transformation as well. I guess there are a lot of other more high-tech processes that you can use, but I think that is sufficient. I really don't want to have too big or too many stars visible in the image. That will take away some focus from the main object. So the starless and the stars, and when joining those two together, you will get an image that looks like this. Now this is the 2024 version with almost 18 hours worth of data. I am going to open up the original file that I have for this 2022 version. As you can see here, there is a big difference between the two. I didn't use drizzle integration on the one to the right here, so it's much smaller in resolution. But other than that, you can see that the stars are way smaller here. That's because I've run BlurXterminator and reduced them more. I've used HA stars on the image to the right here. I used SHO stars on the image to the left here. I have about 8 hours worth of more data in this image to the left compared to the one to the right. And I've also used noise exterminator and star exterminator that I did not use on the first version, the image to the right. So you can see that there are a lot of improvements. Let's zoom in on the center here just to compare those. You can see a huge difference in clarity, in details here in this image. Some of that has to do with processing, of course, but a lot has to do with the fact that I have more data here. The stars look great here in SHO in comparison to the HA, just flat white stars to the right here. And in general, we have a much nicer image, I would say. Let's zoom in on this portion, for example. You can see that we have a lot more data. We can see more details here. It's more interesting, I would say, in this image here. So this is why we do this hobby. We revisit objects. We gather more data. Of course, it's fun to also image new objects, but it's also very satisfying to add data continuously to these objects to see, can we improve them over time? Have we learned anything in terms of processing? And what can we do to develop our knowledge and maybe make some printed images one of these days? I haven't actually printed anything yet from this hobby. I have no wall at home here with printed versions of my images, but I guess someday that will happen too. Until the next video here, please enjoy this image and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, if you like it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're not already doing so. If you like to support me and the work with these videos, there is an option listed in the video description that you can use. Until the next video, I wish you have clear skies.